My name is Loveness Nkhata. I'm a lecturer at the University of Zambia, School of Health Sciences. So that's why you saw me moving from this point to that point, because I have to catch my students' eye contact and not the camera. So if you're keeping me here, it will be a little bit difficult for me, but I'll try. So like I said, I started from somewhere, and I'm somewhere. Okay, why? Because I sat and listened to other people, and I drew up my plans and directions to get where I am. But in the whole journey, I should say God has been the center of it all. God has been the pivot of my success, and God has been the major driver to getting me to achieve what I have achieved today. I grew up in Chingola. My hometown is Chingola. I come from a very average family. My mother died when I was very young, so I was brought up by my uncle. So you find that most of the things that have shaped my journey of life has been from the counsel that I have gotten from him or from that house. Okay? So, like anybody else, I have gone through nursery school, gone through primary, and I'm government, private. So I did my primary school at Chingola Primary, then went to Kabundi. So because we shifted houses, I ended up finishing my high school at Chingola High School. I think I did part of my grade 10 to grade 12 at Chingola High School. So career-wise, so my journey starts, I think, from Chingola High School. So that particular time, there were those big forms the government used to send for you to decide your career path. Okay, so that should have been grade 11. I got those forms, and then the careers master told us that particular time to say, go and talk to your parents on which courses they would love you to do, which courses they are going to take. So I went to that pink form at home, and all this while my senior secondary high school, and my dream was to be a journalist. Okay, so even the study options that I chose were English literature, and then commerce, then geography, because I knew that would take me into journalism class. I didn't pay attention with the math, the biology, the pure sciences. Okay, so when I got home, my parents sat me down and asked me, which courses have you chosen? So of course my first choice was journalism, my second choice was secretarial, my third choice camera. I can't remember. So my parents were like, why have you chosen journalism? So of course I want to read news, I want to travel. They had nothing pleasant to say about it. Secretarial, and when you grow old, how are you going to type? That time, remember, there were no computers, it was the manual typewriter. I think that's when the IBM was coming in. So fast forward, they didn't want me to do the choices that I had to put for first choice and second choice and third choice. So they suggested to me, why don't you do a program like physiotherapy? The word itself, I didn't know about it. Okay, except in the neighborhood, there was a lady who was working at Nchanga North Hospital, and I knew the young man that what was involved and what it entailed for one to become one. I had basically no idea. So I was put at a tight corner because they are the ones that pay for my fees, right? So I have to obey every instruction that they give me. Then I have this situation where for my options, I have been studying for journalism. Okay, so what happens if I do not pass the science courses? Okay, so I had like a few months to study to prepare for those courses. And ignorantly, I say the prayer. Okay? I say the prayer without the understanding that I have on prayer now. So I was like, oh God, now you see my parents are saying I can't do this. And you know I haven't been studying. The only thing I'm going to ask of you is that the way I'm going to decide is if I pass the journalism course, I'll go that way. If I pass the sciences courses, then I'll go that way. So when the results came, you won't believe what happens. Commerce, 7. English literature, 7. Then geography, 7. Then all the sciences I had made. Okay, so that was the beginning of shaping my career into that direction. Okay, so then I got to, with what I got at that time, I had a Division 1, but it couldn't get me at Enza. But it could get me at Evelyn Home College because it was not an upper Division 1. Okay, so I applied. I was picked at Evelyn Home to train at diploma level as a physiotherapy technologist. So I trained 3 years at Baton. When I graduated, I think even the principal then, Mr. Kalonga, was saying, oh, you have come to Evelyn Home. So you have not only come to train, but you have also come to find husbands and wives, and so the drive was, when you finish there, I'm sure you'll have found a partner. Okay? My journey has not been like that. So I finished on, the time I finished, I think the country was undergoing the restructure. It wasn't easy to get a job. So again, I spent like a year and some months without working, but eventually I got a job. I was employed by the UTH Board of Management under CBOH. So the journey started. My career journey started there. Okay, so I didn't have a lot of understanding on prayer. I didn't understand prayer the way I understand it now. So, and I mentioned earlier that to get where I am, there are people who have given me direction, who have talked to me, my parents, number 1, my pastors, number 2. And number 3, I've gotten inspiration from my friends, colleagues, and other respectable personnel in the society. So, on the aspect of the spiritual, I started, though he doesn't like it, permission to mention it. I started sitting under the feet of Pastor Jim. So his teachings really stretched me and shaped my thinking and gave a lot of direction to get me to where I am today. And in fact, like that particular time, every year he would ask me, what is your plan? What is your goal? What are we doing this year? What do we want to achieve this year? And he would say, write it down. Even the Bible, I think in the book of Amos tells us, what is your vision? Can you write it down? Let it be plain on the tablet. So whatever we want to do, we have to write it down. Let it be plain. What you think about, what you imagine, does not, maybe will only come to fruition about, it will take just about 2%. But what you are going to write down and visualize, it will take a higher percentage and a higher chance for it to come out, because you'll be looking at it and there will be something reminding you to say, there's this thing I have to achieve, there's this thing I have written. I think in one of my goals I have said, let your goals be public. You will write down, it doesn't mean that public, that Malaya Kumulabasa, it will be somewhere, Opo Kalamona. It will be a reminder to you. So far I kept saying, write it down, what do we want to achieve, what are we achieving? So you have a drive when you have made your goals public, right? Okay, so I had written that in June I want to get here, I want to do this, I want to do that, and it will give you direction and the zero to work. Then my dad also. I think one time I was staying in those rooms, the flatmates at UTH, so he visited me. So one corner was my bed, and the other corner a TV stand with a small TV, a fridge here, a cooker in the other corner, and a dining table here, and I cooked a meal for him. And I gave him some pocket money when he left. So 2 weeks later, that time, there were no cell phones, there were no emails. He sent me an airlet, those yellow with the big force behind Kuja. And he was very thankful, appreciated that I gave him some pocket money. But there are 1-2 sentences which he wrote to me. He said, "Oh, Mami, I'm very happy that you're working. You have started work. You have done your part." The one who is writing that letter to me, I call him my father because he has raised me up. That is my mother's young brother. But I've always called him that. Okay, so from that point he tells me, we have educated you. We have done what we can, because remember my mother died. I haven't grown up with a mother. Okay, she died when I was very young. So we have educated you. It's not that you have to pay us back. Okay, so this is how far we have reached, but do not relax. Even with a small salary that you are getting, you are able to advance your education. So start planning and thinking in those lines. So that's one voice. On the other voice, my pastor is telling me, you are a civil servant. Okay, I think that time my salary was 135,000 kwacha. If we take out the rebates now, I was getting 135 here. 135 there, it was 135. Was it 1,000 or million? It was 1,000. So Mishnale Fola 183. It was very little money. But my pastor said, you can do something with it if you plan. Okay? Even though you're saving 10 kwacha per day, it will make a difference. So I come from that background. Okay? So there were 2 voices which spoke, and I ran with them. Okay? So that same time, I think putting in action what they were telling me, I started doing things like learning French. You know, I took French lessons at Alliance Française. They look funny, but they are very important, especially now that the world has become a very small global market. So you are at an advantage if you are even able to read or write a bit of French, a bit of Portuguese, a bit of Spanish. Okay, so when it comes to the international market, it makes you a little bit more marketable than one who does not have an idea about, you know, one of these 5 major world languages. So I took that until a time came when I was able to enroll into university. Then remember, I'm coming from this Evelyn home background in an actually. Okay, like the principal had told us that time, I was only waiting for somebody to make me a wife and sit at home. And that time my friends have been wiped and they started having children. Me, it wasn't coming. You know, it wasn't happening. And it was a prayer point for many years until Kai. So I might think I'm talking to students. So anyway, so it wasn't coming, so consolation, school. So I applied, I was given a place at Evelyn, what is this? Monza School of Medicine. The fees then now were per annum 15 million, which is 15,000 kwacha now. Right, yeah, so it was 15 million. Remember, I was getting 135. It was practically impossible for me to pay for my education. Okay? And then the other hurdle was that I was working for the Central Board of Health. Central Board of Health was managing the finances of Ministry of Health. So the way the system was structured was like, I think UTH in particular was under CBOH, it was not under Central Board of Health. So when it comes to training, for us who were under CBOH, we could not get sponsorship from MOH. Okay, so they could give you study leave, but you needed to find your own funding. So it was practically impossible. But you know, again, I had a spiritual father who knew how to access whatever he needs to access from the throne of grace. And one time when I was, going through what I was going through, he asked me, so what are we going to do about this? I said, I don't know. And then he asked me one question, who is the owner of Central Board of Health? We were at Kaplong at that time. Then I said, the government, sir. Who is the owner of MOH? I said, the government, sir. And then he said, no, the heavens and the earth belong to God. And everything therein. I was very embarrassed, but I didn't show my embarrassment that I really that. Then he said, we will pray. If you are a child of God, you are obedient, you will access what belongs to your Father because you are a partaker. You are an heir to what belongs to the kingdom of God. Just that way, many years ago, I think 202 or 203, I still ran with that word. When I'm facing challenges, I do not know how I'm going to access what I need to access at that particular time. I go back to that scripture and I say, Father, the heavens and the earth belong to you, and everything that is in them. If I am your child, give me the grace, and I achieve what I achieve. It may not come immediately, but somehow, somewhere, God works it out that I achieve. So I said, oh, okay. After 3, 4, 5 days, we were still trying to push for, can we get sponsorship here? Just putting papers, here, there. Then one of my clients asked me, the one who was owning Supersonic then. So he said, you are a very good physiotherapist, and then I really want you to go to school. So what are you doing about it? So we had that discussion, and I was trying to get the ministry to help. Just getting the ministry to help, you don't even know that it was after this and after this or not. Okay, so after that session that day, he told me, he's Hindu. He told me, I'm going to do something for you, but I pray that you will not get shocked. Okay, so he said his Hindi prayers, and he called his caretaker, and he opened the briefcase and gave me 5 million kwacha. I had never handled that amount of money before. So with that man, I took my bag. When I reached my car room, I threw it under the bed. And the following day I called, and it was Wednesday service, so I talked to her about it. And then he said, wait, God is still yet to show you. So by Monday, the following week, fast forward, I was a CBOH worker, but the government gave me 100% scholarship and they were paying me. So that's how I got to do my first degree. I had never at one point imagined that I would go to UNZA. And so when I went to UNZA, I did not waste that opportunity. We had targets. I wanted to graduate with a distinction. Remember, I had Division 1 But third division 1, Yama 6 points, Yama 7 points, Yama double digits. Okay, so I needed to undo that. So my target was, okay, can we graduate with distinction? Okay, so by the end of the course, I did not graduate with a distinction, but I graduated with a merit, which is something which is celebrated. I'm sure you are seeing the live, there's a live from yesterday. There is a virtual graduation ceremony going on. So when they mention Chita Z, everyone goes, when they mention credit, they'll clap a bit. When they mention merit, they clap. Distinction, they even give you a standing, So at least they clapped for me. So even though I did not get the distinction, but I undid, that paper, it took me somewhere. So that means if you have a paper like that, it gives you more chances when you want to advance your academics. And when you are looking even for funding, it gives you more chances than the one that has graduated now, silent. So for those of you who are in school, I've seen they are in school, it is very important to graduate with merit, a camlat. If you fail, credit, not a silent, they are pass. Okay, the papers will speak for you also. They have spoken for me. So, fast forward, I went back to work. Graduating with a degree meant that now I had moved from being a physiotherapy technologist to a physiotherapist. Okay, so when it comes on the health market, okay, like at that particular time, the chances were still somehow limiting. So again, we started planning. I've been planning with my father there. What are we going to do? What can we do? And I said, maybe we get to masters. But which masters? I said, no, I won't get into physio. Maybe can I try public health? So we tried public health, and my application form, I brought it, I filled it in. I went, I said, Papa, say a word. I brought it to him to say a word over that, because it was not easy for me, who is not a nurse or a doctor, to get into public health school. Okay, but remember, my father knows how to access, because he knows that the heavens and the earth belongs to the Lord. So I know whenever I want to achieve something, I'll still go to my father, Papa, this. So we did the application, and of any other cadre that had applied, they picked me. Remember, my degree paper is good. Then my father has spoken. So I was the odd one out in that class. And when I got into that class, everyone was like, oh, so, what is your first degree? And your. Okay? So, fast forward, when they expected others in that class to do much more better than I'm the one who finished earlier in that class. I think in 1 year, 8 months, I had done the course and I had graduated. But again, it was not all that easy. Okay, so for my masters, my first masters, I didn't have funding. Okay, MOH told me I had been in school for 3 years. Then I had only spent 2 years, so they could not give me funding. The time they were communicating that to me in terms of coursework, I had done 7 months already. So that meant me going back to my station and coming back the following year, or the remaining 3 months, I find money, I finish the coursework, and in 8 months I do my research and amounts. So, painful as it was, I decided to find money and finish the 3 months and do the research work and out. It wasn't easy, but we prayed, we fasted, we cried, and God opened doors. Okay, they were international doors where I was given international assignments. I came back with dollars, I paid, and I graduated with no credit. So immediately after, I think 2 months after graduation, it's another colleague who said, what will you be doing after graduation? Okay, and there my mentors asking me, what will you be doing? Say, okay, now I have to go to the office and blah, 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 blah. Okay, so then my friends suggest, do you want to do a second master? But this time in clinical epidemiology. So when we look at how it was programmed, it was something that I could go for. And the fact that there was a Novartis bursary to pay just for my tuition fees and not the travel and the accommodation and so on. It wasn't easy, but I took a step of faith. How I was going to be getting myself to Cape Town and back, I don't know, but I took that step of faith. I applied. I was given the place and I started. Okay. So it wasn't easy, but we got where we were, and in the process, that's when I think UNZA put a regulation to say each department should have somebody to anchor research, one with epidemiology or public health to anchor research. So that's when the Department of Physiotherapy approached me to say, oh, since we have a physiotherapist who has done public health and is doing epidemiology, so we can incorporate that person into our department. So I was called, would you mind to do this and that? I said, I don't mind if it's giving me more bread and butter. So that's how I found myself there. Okay? So in Psalms 139, the Bible tells us that God has seen our days even before any of them came to be. So because of that, you will find that there's nothing that you can achieve or attain without really relying on Him. So when you look at the arrangements that happened for me, public health, epidemiology, it's not something that I planned for. I just walked into the opportunity as they presented themselves. Why? Because the one I submit to has lived in my tomorrow before that tomorrow has been. So why am I saying this? There are opportunities which will come if you have not opened your eyes, or if you are not alert spiritually, you will miss them. Okay, remember I have said God has been, okay? So more life, some opportunities will come, they will pass you by. You will not walk into that, you will miss that. So we need to be very spiritually alert and very spiritually sensitive, and sometimes the decisions we have to make are hard and painful decisions. So I got there, I did my MCLIN-AP, and my MCLIN-AP is what has marketed me more. Reason being, when we do the NARIC, there is what we call, when you are doing the international evaluation of exams, when we do the NARIC, when it comes to university rankings and ratings. So when it comes to my diploma at NARIC UK, they'll rate it as an advanced certificate. Okay, then they'll rate now the ratings have gone high, but that time they were low. Then they would rate my degree as advanced diploma. So then they would rate my master's as my first master's as advanced, something advanced. Okay, then when it comes to the Stellenbosch masters, they just rate it as masters. So you find that when I'm presenting my credentials, I use more of the Master of Medical Science in Clinical Epidemiology. So it's the one that speaks more for me. So I have to run again very fast. I came back to Zambia I got back to work in 2017. My professor is the one now that called me to say, do you mind doing a doctoral? I had other plans. Okay, I had applied in Australia, everything I had packed, even things I thought I was going to Aussie. And I had planned when I get there, I don't think I'm coming back. I think even one of the meetings I had this discussion with her there, he said, oh, I'm doing this and I'm doing that. And he says, you won't come back. I said, maybe. Maybe when you go to Australia, you won't come back. I said, maybe, but in my spirit, I was like, I won't come back. But remember, again, God has lived in our tomorrow. Yeah. So, I had the school place, but I didn't have funding. Then from nowhere, I get funding, which I did not apply for. Everything paid in my student account. Now I had to decide whether I begin waiting for funding this side or hunting for funding. I had to make that painful decision to say, can I give up this Aussie and I go this way? So I went that way. When I started my PhD studies, again the journey was not easy. First, I think in the history of the whole university, I'm the only one that had 3 PhD supervisors. And then they were saying, what's so special about this one? So it made my studies very difficult because sometimes they would argue on the hour. And when we had a sitting in the meeting, I would come out very confused. And they would tell me, write this, write that, we are going to take this journey. I spent 2 months or 3 weeks writing. I go back to present what I'm writing. They say, not this. So then there are moments when I said, let me just go back home. Okay, I'm going to talk about when I give you the points to say commit to your goals. So let me just go back home. Then I tell myself, for me, we don't give up. If I have started, let me go. So if I give up again, what will people at home say? And there are all those. So I said, let me push in. And when it's very, very, very hard again, I go back to my pillar. You know? And when you're praying and believing God about something, sometimes your answer will just come like a thought. So you really need to be very, very, again, sensitive. Okay, so I was crying that week, a thought, and you know, then something just tells me in my room, I say, you know, your prof has been doing work, that was my #1 supervisor, has been doing work in low back pain. So what you're trying to do, why don't you just, because now I was looking at the broader picture. When you look at my work, I write on work-related musculoskeletal disorders. The other work that I write on is antenatal, yes, work-related musculoskeletal disorders. So I'm talking about work, the work-related, so I'm coming to there. Then muscular is the muscles, then skeletal is your skeleton. So disorders, those are the discomforts, the pains that you're going to get in your body as a result of work. Yes, I write about that because we spend 3/4 of the day at work. Do you realize that we spend most of the time at work? But there are negative effects that come on your body because of the work activities which you are doing, and you will not realize, and you will not get to realize them until after a very long time. Okay, one, because others, there's what we call cumulative trauma. There's a habit that you have been doing. I'll give an example of my brother. He sits up Sunday, doing the video recordings. Okay, it looks so simple for now, but I think when you knock off, how do you feel on your neck, your shoulders? You have strain, a lot of pain. So if we don't get to manage that, it is something that might affect his life negatively. Okay, so when it comes to those of you that work on computers, if the chair, the table relationship is not right, you strain your eyes, you have neck pain, shoulder pain, we don't manage that, we'll talk about something else. That's time. So in my writing and in the research that I do what we call innovative rehabilitation. How do we manage that in the confines of work so that you are working, you continue with your productivity, okay, and you do not get your body strained because of the activities that you are doing every day, okay? So those are the work-related musculoskeletal disorders or discomforts that I write about. If I haven't written about that, I'll write about women's health, antenatal, postnatal. How do we get a woman through easy pregnancy, through easy labor, and when they deliver, how do they get back to their normal self? Okay, so when you see that I'm the first author, it will be in those two subject areas. So now my supervisor, so that is broad, okay, when it comes to work-related musculoskeletal disorders, because it might touch the neck, the shoulders, the wrist, the elbow, and so on and so forth. But my supervisor just writes about the lower back. Okay, so it came as an idea to say, your subject matter is very broad, and this one has focused on this. So I think for you to have support, I think focus on just work. But there are negative effects that come on your body because of the work activities which you are doing, and you will not realize them, you will not get to realize them until after a very long time. Okay, one, because others, there's what we call cumulative trauma. There's a habit that you have been doing. I'll give an example of my brother. He sits up Sunday, doing the video recordings. Okay, it looks so simple for now, but I think when you knock off, how do you feel on your neck, your shoulders? You have strain, a lot of pain. So if we don't get to manage that, it is something that might affect his life negatively. Okay, so when it comes to those of you that work on computers, if the chair, the table relationship is not right, you strain your eyes, you have neck pain, shoulder pain, we don't manage that, we'll talk about something else. That's time. So in my writing and in the research that I do what we call innovative rehabilitation, how do we manage that in the confines of work so that you are working, you continue with your productivity, okay, and you do not get your body strength because of the activities that you are doing every day, okay? So those are the work-related musculoskeletal disorders or discomforts that I write about. If I haven't written about that, I'll write about women's health, antenatal, postnatal. How do we get a woman through easy pregnancy, through easy labor, and when they deliver, how do they get back to their normal self? Okay, so when you see that I'm the first author, it will be in those two subject areas. So now my supervisor, so that is broad, okay, when it comes to work-related musculoskeletal disorders, because it might touch the neck, the shoulders, the wrist, the elbow, and so on and so forth. But my supervisor just writes about the lower back. Okay, so it came as an idea to say, your subject matter is very broad, and this one has focused on this. So I think for you to have support, I think focus on just the back. Okay, and that's what I did. I zoomed into the lower back, but capitalized on the other studies that I have done, because the last big research I had looked at work-related musculoskeletal disorders in the nursing profession. So when my results came out after analysis, the most common disorder that the nurses had, and which occurs worldwide, was lower back pain. Okay, so for the nurses at UTH, the prevalence was 68%. So I zoomed to that. Okay, so in my doctoral studies, then I was going to do an intervention study to see how we maintain productivity among the nurses and manage their low back pain. So the message I was trying to put across is to keep them at work, but to have them know how to manage their back so that we don't get this ripple activity. Because when it comes to the way they are working, on a shift, we might have just 3 nurses. Okay, and manning the ward, they might just be 5 nurses. So if the 5 nurses, we do not manage that, their activities, because the pain they get is because of the activities that they are doing and how they do the activities, it means at one particular time we might just have 2 nurses on duty. Okay, then 3 have taken sick offs. So if 2 nurses are on duty, they will get more strain because they are doing work for those others, right? The time those others are coming, these others will sick, they also get sick off, and so on. So we are trying to manage that. So the moment I ran with that idea, I had my breakthrough. Okay, and I have been writing about that. So when you check on the expertise that Papa talked about, in Zambia, my publications, I'm the only one there. Then in Africa, I'm number 2. Then on the world, that is for 2020, I'm number 3. So there are only 3 persons. Thank you. So that is what I was trying to say. So looking at my life, in 1998-2000, I didn't see myself being an expert in that area. Okay, and I didn't even see myself getting a doctoral degree. But because of time, I can say I have gotten to where I have gotten because I listened to some people. There are people who spoke in my life and gave direction. I listened. I planned and I kept my goals. Okay, I was determined. I was committed. I had my desires or what I wanted to attain, my goals, public. So there are things which we want to achieve, all of us, there are things which we want to achieve. I have done my doctoral, but there are still things which I want to achieve. So when we talk about achieving our goals or attaining our goals, what are we looking at? Okay? So be it business, be it personal, I would say you have to start by identifying what you want to achieve. You should know, what do I want to achieve? Where do I want to be in 2020, 2021? We are in 2021. Where do I want to be in 2021, or where should I be? So if I do A, it will get me to C. It will lead me to D. Then E. Okay? So prioritize. Sometimes you may prioritize, but you never know. Mwamene mulungama vipangira ndaweza vipanga sometimes so zilagwira vipanga vachitika vintu. You may find even when you prioritize, you find that F comes first and then D there. But whichever way it happens, prioritize your goals. Okay, so after you have done that, remain focused. God is the center of all that we achieve and attain. Commit them in prayer. I think even the Bible tells us to commit our ways into the Lord, unto the Lord, and we shall succeed. Okay, we are not going to achieve or make any success without God. So we need to involve Him in our plans. Okay, we need to pray constantly about them. Okay, we need to talk to ourselves about them, and God will help us to succeed. I think in just little, this sharing, it is what has made me get to where I am. And I believe that with the same principles that I have learned, somebody gave me the principles, somebody has been teaching me the principles, and I have continued to sit and learn the principles, because every day you learn something new. You only stop learning the day you will go to the grave. Okay? Only the day you will go to the grave, that's when you will stop learning. And you can learn from anybody. Okay, you will learn through observation, you will learn through reading, you will learn through, I don't know, watching TV, and so on and so forth. So that is what has given me the drive. That is what has brought me to where I am, and that is what is going to take me beyond to the other things that I would like to achieve. So let me end here. I'm ready to take questions. The other thing that has helped is what we call, is it peer mentors? You should have friends that will encourage you in the journey. Okay, the friends that will give you positive energy or positive vibrations, run with them. Those that give you negative energy, negative vibrations, then tactfully, I say tactfully, find a way of avoiding them. Okay, there are friends that will give you, you think they are with you, but they actually give you very negative vibration or energy. Why? Because they don't want you to see them. So if you follow what they are doing or they are saying, then you will not get to where they are getting. So I had friends too. Like when, for me, I was getting the energy this side, especially from my spiritual father, to say, let's do this. I had friends who were saying, school. So imwe tamwingirira po napachubo. Okay, meanwhile I'm working, and you know, because I write my vision, I've been told to write my vision, there are goals I want to attain. Like that time I was working for UTH, my friends were content living in the hostels, that one room. Okay, but for me, I had left the hostel. I was renting a 2-bedroom flat by the government flats there in Kabwata. I had bought my first car, which was practically impossible that particular time. How I bought that is another story. Okay, how I managed that, it's another story. And I had finished the house, and I had friends come in and say, so number imwe, mwalishita fiance, then I will make such things. So those are not friends that you want to keep around, because they're not giving you the positive energy or the positive vibration. They're giving you negative energy. So, and I remember telling my friends to say, if I have one car and I have this, so I think the man God is going to give me will not be worried about this Toyota Corolla I have. Okay? It will be nothing to him. Okay, so you get friends that will speak positively, will give you positive advice. Then in that way, it will be easy for you to attain or achieve the goals that you have set for yourself. And prayer, I never stop talking about prayer, because I think prayer has been the backbone of my achievements. So that is really going to help you. I hope I've answered adequately. I'm still taking answers. Is it answers or questions? So I'll be very quick to say if there are no questions we can leave. Yes, sir.
Thank you very much for such a very good story that's encouraging. I would like to ask, in your journey, like the way you're explaining it, it sounds like it has been God all the way and everything has been going just when you need God to intervene, whether the time could be long, but he steps in and he makes everything work out.
Exactly.
So I would like to understand, for this instance, in my way, I want to ask this. You are in your journey, right? Like Pastor Jay was saying, you see yourself there, but you're still here. And that moment, depression creeps in, you're working hard, but nothing is really showing like it's really coming up or in your way. And like what he asked, that there are times you feel like it's not really pulling you along the way I want it to be. Because you'll be visualizing yourself like, I can do this and do this and this and that, but it's not really pushing to that extent. What was your drive force that was really pushing you? Because of course there was something that was pushing you towards getting to where you want to get. Because sometimes really the tires can go flat, like when you feel like right now I'm on the zero. So how did you always prompt up yourself to keep on trekking to where you are now?
Okay, so my answer to that will not be so different to like the answers I gave to him. You have asked a similar question. You have just used different phrases, but you have, in your asking, you have talked about the same things. Okay? So, but in answering you, I would love to add one thing. Okay? So you may see yourself there. You had talked about stumbling, and then your tires become flat. Okay, so you may stumble, your tires become flat, but like I said, we still don't give up. Okay, because in the Bible again we are told that a righteous man will fall 7 times, and 7 times he will rise up. Okay, then in the points that I had given, I had said commit to your goals, remain focused. Okay, so there are times that even I have stumbled personally. Okay, but I have not given up. I have not given up. Why? Because no matter how I stumbled again, remember I have talked about people to look to and having positive friends. Okay? So they are the ones that will help you when your shoulders are weak. They are the ones like Paliapa Mountain, Moses, Nashan, never so that you don't fall. Okay? So then you find that in my life again, you find that my spiritual father has been very supportive. Sometimes I've been, naenda kwa song, that's it. Very supportive. Okay. Pa, can I talk about my life? Yeah. So, it looks all rosy, but there are times that I have stumbled. Like, for instance, I was here. Okay, and I got pregnant. Okay, and I was in school. So if I did not have a very good support system, or if I belonged to a ministry where they say, place dasha, they could have excommunicated me. But my father did not do that. He supported me. Okay? So even when I had made a mistake, and I knew I had made a mistake, I had a child, he supported me, he loved my child. I was in school, I was doing my second master's plan. He supported me, I finished my second master's. So the way I answered him, your support system will matter. If you have a support system that will give you negative energy, definitely you are going to fail. Okay? So, in my stumbling, there was negative energy somewhere, but I chose not to listen to that. Where I was getting positive energy, that's where so you lean where you're getting positive energy. And when you have failed, pick up your broken pieces and begin to run again. First you will walk, you will gain your momentum, you will run. Okay, so we don't give up. Why? Because we have said we commit to our goals and we remain focused to our goals. I hope I've answered you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am.
Let me ask. I think in your story you mentioned where your parents had to choose for you the career to take, and I should believe you never had the passion to actually do what you started to do. Now, how did it take you to develop the passion of what you are doing? And then you also mentioned to say you concentrated on certain subjects because in you thought you were going to be a journalist. Mm-hmm. And then what's your advice to a student or a pupil that is just looking at a certain type of subjects and then they later choose a different career path?
Answering from the last question or the last comment, I think when you are that student or that pupil, when you are taking those subjects that we take, my advice would be, I think, take all the subjects with passion, because you do not know where the dice will fall. Okay? So I had that issue, and remember I said ignorantly I prayed. So when the results came out the way they came out, for me it was giving me the direction. Okay, so I took it. God has answered me in that direction, and I think by the time the first semester had finished, you should have seen me. I had changed. I was speaking very nice language. Everything was the greater trochanter, the tibia fasciitis. So I had started enjoying. I do not regret that God had used my parents to lead me in that direction. And being where I am today, remember I had said in Psalm 139, He has seen our days before any of them came to be. Why He has lived there. So when we are living for Him, it's history, it's a replay. Okay, so we might not know. And God is going to use anything and anyone to point to you in the direction that you need to go. So despite me having had this other desire, I think as my earthly gods, God used my parents to give me that direction, because that is what He had planned and destined for me. That's how I have taken it. If He hadn't planned and destined that for me, even the silly prayer that I had made, my results were not going to be determined the way they were determined. And reaching to where I am, I wasn't going to reach where I am. So I believe He just used my parents that time to set me in the direction that I am going to go. So it's the same with all of us today. Okay? It might not be your parents that will give you a direction to determine which way you're going to go. Sometimes it might be your child. It might be pastor. It might be your colleagues. Okay? So like I mentioned, we just need to be sensitive and open-minded so that we are able to see the opportunities and run with them. So when we remain rigid and insensitive, then opportunities will miss us. Okay? That's how I would answer that. I hope it is satisfactory. I'm still...
So it's not always about your passion, like what you prefer.
It may not be always about your passion. It's not. It may not be. Sometimes it may. Sometimes it's not always about that. I can take my leave. Pa, is your hand up?
No.
Oh.
Thank you. And I think I've seen in your journey you took mentorship very seriously. What would be your advice on sending mentorship to somebody that doesn't regard mentorship as something that they should do?
Mentorship is very important. I am where I am because I've been mentored and mentored by the best. Okay? Your mentors have seen things or are able to see things when they are seated, which you are not able to see when you are standing. Okay, so mentorship is very, very important. It shapes you. It gives you direction. It's very important. And I think if mentorship was not important, all of you would not be sitting in this class, not so. Why? Mentorship will help us to get somewhere. Mentorship will help us to learn about things which will be applicable in the various things that we are doing in life. So again, we are being mentored every day. You know, mentorship is not just about apa, muchech, you know. If you are very sensitive in everything that you are doing, even when you are walking on the road, you get mentored. Okay? Even when you are visiting other people's homes, you get mentored. Okay, I'm sure like for ma'am, you have visited other people's home, you find like a deco yaso, that is nice. You were mentored. Okay, so sometimes mentorship may not be pictorial. It can be pictorial, or it can just be by observations, and you learn one or two things which you put into your practical aspect. So even mentorship, we have to be open-minded that I'm walking Murodi, Ninkalako mentored. So you'll be walking on the road, you'll see somebody in such a combined so Magalas Yamadris, you are mentored. You also go and combine or watch ads. You even do much better than they did. It's so mentorship. So everything we do we learn or achieve through mentorship. Yes, sir.
In your journey, ma'am, is there a place or a point in your life that maybe, when you think back, you might want to have changed? And if so, what was that point in your life?
Which one now? Which one now? Oh. Probably in terms of academics, if I were given a chance, especially the high school part, I think I would do much better than I did. But I was saying which one now, because even though it happens the way it happened, the playing grounds have been leveled because of these other stages that I have done. So even the one that got 6, 7 in a chan, I think we have leveled the playing field. That's why I was saying which one now. Okay, so even if at one point you do not get the desired results, there is still a way that you are going to level the playing fields. So why have I said that? On first attempt, you may not have achieved what you wanted to achieve, or your friends have done better. So we don't give up. There's a way we are going to level the playing fields. So like I have leveled the playing field. God has helped me. I have leveled the playing field. So even if I didn't have an upper one, but today I'm a dog. I have leveled. Done.
Are there any other questions?
Thank you.